as a BRP, you can have your assets, you can be assetless, but if you want to be active in these aFRR and mFRR markets, you need to be a BSP, balancing service provider. But what types of assets is it? Is it large? Is it small? Is it batteries? Is it solar? Is it thermal? Can you try to draft a story here on how could this look day to day for a typical trading house?
Yeah, so actually these days I would say there is all sorts of different types of assets who are starting to participate in these markets, because you do see that there is benefit of getting your asset pre-qualified for, let's say, downward regulation, even if you are a renewable producer. And now because of more controllability that is coming in, you can also do different sorts of things depending on what kind of flexibility you have got. And because you see a lot of, let's say, co-located assets, right, with batteries and renewables, then it opens up much more opportunities for you to do like a more combined participation. So we are seeing all sorts of, even wind actually, wind in Denmark, for example, is participating in many of these markets quite a lot. So as I mean, it all depends on what kind of opportunities you see, but we are if we go back in time, let's say in 2025, early 2025, if we were having this discussion, we would see more limited, let's say for a Picasso, if we talk about that, like so aFRR volumes, because Denmark had a very new immature market for Picasso back then. I mean, it was very new thing. So the aFRR volumes were quite limited, especially on both the sides, but also on the upward side quite a lot. And now we have started to see more volumes coming in with time, because that's where they see the opportunity. So I would say that more types of assets will get qualified as they see more opportunities into those markets. And as it becomes also more easier, so the pre-qualification processes, they need to be also more, let's say, flexible. And there is actually a lot of now discussion happening with ACER, because with, for example, in terms of Picasso coming in and opening up the cross-border opportunities. So let's say your asset is in Denmark, but if it is, activated in an uncongested area with another country, so it is basically also helping another country for the activations that they need. So this is the idea of Picasso, right? So as a result, the natural question we have to ask is the kind of rules that this asset followed to be able to get here, was that the same if you were in Denmark or if you were in Germany, let's say? And in many cases, it is not, because there are local TSO rules to get pre-qualified and so on. So now ACER is looking at ways to harmonize this in a way, and there are also so they ran a consultation, and now they're also going to release like some decisions after collecting all the different feedbacks. So that is the thing we are awaiting in June, for example, 2026. So we would hear more about what was the decisions on these type of ways to harmonize the rules to give like a level playing field for assets who are trying to enter the market. So one more example is, let's say you have an asset which was already qualified in a given like load frequency control area, but now you're trying to switch the same BSP. So the balance service provider is trying to switch to another reserve providing unit. So if, as long as it's of the same technology and same type, you should be able to switch to the new one and do like an ex post verification, so that we don't lose volume suddenly if there is a switch that is happening. So to streamline the process a bit. So these are also some discussions in the background.
And so you basically said that the Picasso algorithm now allowed the market to have more cross-border optimization of these ancillary services, correct?
Yeah, of the reserves, the aFRR reserve, the
Yeah,
automated
specifically
frequency
aFRR, mFRR. Yeah,
reserve.
ancillary service is wider than that, of course, but I refer to these. Yeah. Can you then
Exactly.
explain as well that with the integration of Picasso in the Nordics, how was it, and we take a bit a step back in time, but how was
Yeah.
it perceived by the market? And can you explain also what happened in the market that caused concern or discussion?
Yeah, sure. A very interesting question, I would say. So I can answer this in let's say 2, 3 different dimensions because there's just so much to it. So let's start with Denmark. So Denmark joined Picasso October 2024, but as I mentioned, it was a very immature market that time with the aFRR because that was the first time they ever started an aFRR energy market. So there was no aFRR energy market before, right? And usually when you start a new market, naturally there's going to be more volatility in the market, and it's like the market is trying to adjust to the new change. In Finland, they did it a bit differently. So they started, so Fingrid, even before they joined Picasso, they launched a local aFRR energy market in June 2024. So it gave the market some more time to, let's say, adjust to the new ways of handling this. So they entered this in stages. And what happened was they started to reflect, say, so they adjusted the imbalance price design already that time for including both aFRR energy and also mFRR energy prices into it in a way, certain way, which is also actually followed today, looking at the dominating directions and doing like a max or min function of the imbalance prices. But what Energinet did was, so when they started this in October 2024, they did not use this formula directly because they saw that, oh wait, let's actually reflect on this. What is happening, you know? So the imbalance prices will go crazy if we start counting the aFRR directly from day one. So let's hold on. So Energinet started to absorb these costs for themselves and instead shielded the market from having these imbalance prices reflected to them directly up until March 2025. So that's the time when they shifted to the real formula, which is also what is used in Finland, which is the way they have set it up to be. So now it's almost a year, right? So the kind of there was still shock in the market because everybody could see the prices that were coming out. So the cross-border marginal prices, which are 4 seconds, because it's a 4-second clearing market, right? So you get Picasso prices those many times. And then what is more interesting is the VWAP, the volume weighted average prices of 15 minutes, because ultimately the market will pay the imbalance prices, I mean, get paid or pay according to the 15-minute prices. So that is the one they need to look at. And then we started calculating all of those, trying to reflect how is it reaching out to the BRPs, what does the prices mean? So the reaction was a little bit like taking it a bit more carefully because there's a big change, and how should we adjust to that? But also, if you see, since this question was a little bit more from Nordic perspective, I would say that there was like a doubling effect because there was also this change of mFRR, EAM, Energy Activation Market, in March. And so there were like a lot of changes that were coming along at the same time, and the flow-based had just happened in October 2024. So which also meant much less cross-border capacities up to the real time. And when we're talking about Picasso, that is really, just so close to the real time. So we are struggling with capacities, and it's also making you like more susceptible to very high prices. Because if you look at Denmark, so DK1, DK2 are relatively smaller bidding zones. And if you are isolated, so there were several times that we were seeing the Picasso prices were reaching like 4,000, 5,000 euros. So those were the ranges, like plus, but also sometimes minus. And when you have those volatile prices, it's basically indicating that, first of all, your merit order depth is limited. Second, you're also like very maybe isolated in these cases. So you're kind of on your own. So those were the reactions that we got, like to be a bit more, careful on what's the opportunity. But it also triggered, let's say, more um, participants to get involved in those because they saw that there was opportunity if they were there and they were taking the right decision. But it also made them a bit more careful, I would say. So it's like a bit of mixed reaction. And then many things have followed after that, with the TSOs learning from this and doing more like elastic, like demand threshold kind of thing. So what Energinet has started to do is more actively, actually now from October, but they already introduced this officially in August 2025, to modulate the price threshold. So it's kind of you can call it like a temporary price cap in a way. So depending on how much volumes you have, you kind of say that this is the price threshold that I'm willing to let the cross-border marginal price to be for Denmark, for DK1, DK2. So those were some, like, yeah, reactions that we have seen eventually.